Okay, welcome back and good morning to another episode of That Makes Games. This is the second day, and here we are. Let's continue on developing this project. And in the previous day, I made some adjustments. I make some preparations for this game, and I already imported the movement systems from my previous project. And in addition to this, I'm planning to use timeline in this project. If nothing else, no problem arises, but I'm not really sure project does not get into the play mode. Let me just check for a second. And it looks like something was wrong with the Unity. But right now it's all clear. And till the timeline finishes, the game does not give me access to cave and the last done inside. Okay, so far so good. And today I wanted to let me also open my to-do list. Let's start by working on drag and dropping the items, the cubes. And let's see that if I disable the timeline, I can just directly play with my character. So here, let's add a cube for this drag and drop functionality. And where is the grounds? Grounds. Here are the cubes. And this is my collectible cube. I want this guy to be inside the ground zone. Also, I want this ground zone to be a little larger. Looks clear and make another NavMesh area for my player to move around. Also, I want this ignore raycast. Let's set the cubes layer for ignore raycast, and it's okay. I have set that the layer ignore raycast does not comply with, does not included inside this NavMesh system. That's why I can just keep this cube out of the playing zone, out of the moving zone. So I make this decision. Let's add a sensor, player sensor or something like this for triggering this functionality. And this. And this cube should be in front of my character also. Let's just keep the mesh renderer in front and let's just add a rigid body over here without any gravity or without any mass. Maybe kinematic can work. So let's add a tag for this cube and change the name of this cube to collectible cube. These collectible cubes will actually represent pots. And let's rename this as pot. It will be more suitable for this situation. Okay. This is my pot. And if I go into my, let's rename this as player sensor and add component as player sensor. By the way, there are a million ways to do it. For example, I can just use raycasts in front of my player and it will be really suitable for this. I can just select my player character movement and shoot a raycast in front of it in this direction, in the direction of this z-axis, for example, for only a limited amount of distance, and that solution can also be suitable in this situation. However, I just wanted to use a simple and fast solution, And I also do not wanted to use the collision options in here. I wanted to use, that's why I chose this is trigger option in here, because I do not want cubes to collide with each other and push them or move them over some points. And let's just go inside this player sensor script and add a on trigger enter if other conveyor tag is pod at debug.log player matched a pod. And let's see that if this is working. Okay, it's not working. This is my player sensor. Let's just set this to in kinematic. Pod is not defined because of this. And how about now? Yes, player touch the pod. Player touch the pod. Player touch the pod. Okay, in addition to this, I also want to enable and disable a button here over the joystick maybe. And let's just add a button. Let's just copy this next button inside this joystick container. Because why not? And let's reposition this button over the joystick controller. And maybe, okay, maybe change the name of this button to, and also the color to something brown. Is a vibrant color, and if on click is pressed, okay, grab drop manager, or where is the player sensor? I can put, I do not want to play with this, but this script, but where should I implement this grab drop functionality? Let's just go with this. Go with the player sensor here, and let's add public and name this as first enable button, because enable button, because when the trigger on trigger enter happens, player needed to see this grab button. This button should appear to or toggle grab button. This name will be better, and also set a boolean inside here as, and let's add a game object, field game object of this grab drop button, set active this boolean. If the player touches this pot, grab drop button set active to true. And also I wanted to implement a on trigger exit formatting. Okay, this set this to false. Just use this toggle button to false. Yeah, whatever. And at the beginning, I do not want to see this grab button. Let's rename this as grab drop button. Forgot to disable it. I have my grab drop button over here because I forgot to add a reference to this grab drop button. I have button appears. Okay, this is looking good. Then for the last thing, I needed to implement this grab functionality, and let's say this grab or grab item. Wait, grab item, and item should be called and lines fields. Let's add a game object item grabbed, and item that can be grabbed. Okay, first thing is for if on trigger is entered and if the sensor is triggered by another collider, I just want the other components game objects into the memory set, get the game objects get the game object into the cache or something like that. Because I wanted to be sure that this item can be grabbed. And after on trigger exit happens, I just want to flash out, or I'm not really sure how to pronounce this, but I just want to set this to null, that the item that can be grabbed. Let's set the toggle grab button to false. And grab item for the grab item functionality. If item that can be grabbed is null, let's give me an error message. Debug.log. Something is wrong. There is no item to be. Kill the method in here. If else this happens, let's just set item grabbed to item that can be grabbed. Also change the name of this grab drop button component children as tmp text. tmp text. The text component of NavMesh Pro under this button and set the text of this as. Also, let's change the item that can be grabbed. Transform position, new vector, and let's raise the grabbed item's position a little higher to above the current position it has. And I guess that's all. Let's check this grab functionality. And where is my button? Player sensor. Okay, what's wrong with you? This is a player sensor. Sensor and grab item. Here and grab the item. But since I do not change the parent of this object, let's also change the parent of this object. Let's item here and item grabbed transform parent is. If I set the item grabbed parent to the parent of this player sensor, the item grabbed should be get over here. If I go over here, when I grab the object, okay, the player can. Okay, this is a bug. This is a bug because after I change this thing, the grab button should not be hold anymore. An easy fix to separate this functionality. Let's just rename this grab drop button to just a grab button and drop button. To true. Google grab button to false. Also, let's set both grab button and drop button at the beginning because I want both of these buttons to be disabled. Also, let's rename this. Set active to true. And then I can have public void drop item grab button. What I did in here is that if I press this grab item functionality, I do not want player that can be press over this button again. The reason is that if I let the player to press over this button more than it needed to, okay, what's wrong with here? It's giving me error. Okay, let's just rename this as grab button and drop button. If the player can press grab button more than once, the cube just go over here, and as you can see in here, there is no guard codes in order to make this happening. In order to make this happen, that's why I wanted to separate grab and drop buttons in here. There's sensor and drop item, and with that solution, player can no longer press grab button after it presses the grab button more than once. And that's a really ugly sentence. And as you can see, it can now press the grab button only once. So let's just add the functionality for this drop button. And let's copy functionality from this grab item. So the item grabbed. Okay, first the player needed to change the parent of this item to null again, and that's why. And with that case, the item can return back to its original position with no parent object. And also, I wanted to drop down this position of this cube, as you can see here. And also I needed to set the item grabbed to null. Also I needed to set the drop button to false and maybe grab button to true. And this may be the functionality. This should be the functionality working. So let's playtest it. Drop, turn back again, drop, grab. Okay, this is really nice. It looks like this grab drop functionality is working. So let's go over here and start working on drag and dropping the items to cubes. No problem. It's done. Plant trace zone. Okay. So in this game actually there should be areas that can be affected by this is the pot, and there should be some fans around here. By the way, I cannot see the end of this is better. Also, this too. This should be the playable area. In this game, I do not want camera, and I want to keep the players simple because I do not want the player to lose focus on the task of this player. So keep the player's movement area something like this, and I do not want player to move outside this area. So player back again, and player can only move along this area. And also plant freeze zone. I disable this placement cubes, yes, and that's more clear. Can move around. Okay, what was the reason for this weird behavior? Maybe it's because of this capsule collider. I think I understand the problem, but I do not want to fix it yet. So let's go over here, and seems like I forgot to set and also the player sensor. This is the layer. Right now it's working. How about play with the NavMesh agents? Angular speed is 100. Stop distance 0. Log quality. That's finding. Only walkable area will be enough for me. Actually, I think I make a mistake by setting this layer to ignore raycast, because that option the player just tries to go to this section, and I wanted to can I actually after I grab the item, can I set this NavMesh surface to recalculate this data, recalculate this mesh, and will that make any performance problems? Play object, all game objects. Object collection. Does it has any current objects? NavMesh modifier component only. Okay, let's add another layer for object collection and set this to object collection layer, clear and bake, and include layers for on a object collection. Okay, this is not how it should work, I guess. Okay, I played along with. I go through the documentation and I wanted to see that if I manage to get over this weird vibrating of the character when I try to grab this item, and I see that there is a solution as a NavMesh obstacle component, which is basically when you enable this component. Let's disable this component. If I disable this component, as you can see, player, let me just show you better. It has this weird stuttering, and if I enable this NavMesh obstacle, and the stuttering is gone. If I grab this obstacle, actually I also needed to, when I grab this obstacle, I needed to probably disable this NavMesh obstacle over here, and this is a solution at the end. So when I'm grabbing, by the way, let's add using Unity engine.ai in order to import this NavMesh. What? NavMesh obstacle. Yes, NavMesh obstacle. And this obstacle should be the one when I'm grabbing the item. I have item grabbed. Item grabbed is pot, and item grabbed has a component of obstacle. What was the mesh obstacle? Component of mesh obstacle, and set enable of this obstacle to false. And when I'm dropping item, let's set the enabled of this obstacle to true. By the way, I do not need this reference, so let's just remove it, and let's see that if this stutter is gone or not. Right now the NavMesh obstacle is open here, and okay, when I'm grabbing it, I drop it. When I try to move over it, because at first, before nullifying, when the drop item is called, before nullifying this item grabbed, I needed to set this NavMesh obstacle enabled to true. I go over here, I get the grab and stop. Let's see the pot. Grab, grab, drop, grab. When I try to move it, okay. This looks promising. And let's continue with this way, but I'm running out of time for now and I needed to get ready to work. And we will see, we will continue on tomorrow if nothing else is happened. No problem is happened for tomorrow morning. And I wanted to add some notes to this to-do list. Add plant zone, and I needed another zone called planetary zone functionality. So I needed to add zone functionality and start working on funds and add some funds. In addition to this, I needed to add arrange temperature buttons. So this is the to-do list for the future, and thank you for watching till now. Hope to see you in tomorrow morning. Have a nice day and bye.